Welcome back, folks, to Hashtag AskGSM. For January 11th, 2016, I am Graham GSM Matthews, and every single Monday I answer your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube right here in this video forum. Lots of great questions here today pertaining to last week's amazing Raw, the entire crazy week in the world of wrestling with John Cena getting injured, AJ Styles and other New Japan Pro Wrestling stars possibly coming to WWE, so a lot of great questions to break down here today in today's video. That being said, forgot to mention it last week, but my goal in 2016 for Hashtag AskGSM is to get at least one episode out throughout the entirety of 2016. That is something that has not yet been done with the show. 2013, the show started like halfway through the year, so that obviously was impossible. 2014, I missed all but 1 week. 1 week when I got back to school in January. I did not film an episode that week. I just did it on Wrestle Rant Radio, so that was 1 week I didn't do it. And last year we got close, but then my computer died and I couldn't do it for like 2 to 3 weeks. So, barring any, or barring whatever the word might be, or how it's pronounced anyway, any malfunctions or anything that comes up with any computer problems, which has happened before. Like I said, I think it happened twice last year. I had to bring my computer into the shop for like a total of 2 months altogether. Just my computer was a piece of shit last year. But this is a brand new laptop, so hopefully we don't have any issues with that. And whether it's Mondays or Tuesdays, I know last week's episode went up on Tuesday because John and I, we did not hang out until I got over his house literally halfway during Raw, and then we filmed it the next day because I'm not going to film it at 11 o'clock. We were just too tired. We just played SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 instead. So if it's not up on Mondays, it will always be up on Tuesdays. I know the upload times are always out of whack. Last week was Tuesday. Today it's going up around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time. So you never really know what time to get Hashtag AskGSM every single week. But I will assure you, unless I say otherwise on my Facebook and Twitter pages, it will be up every single week. So speaking of such, if you want to send in a question, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on the Facebook. Leave a comment on the page at facebook.com/Graham.Jason.Matthews or on the post itself that I put on every Sunday night, that I usually put up every Sunday night. And also be sure to leave a comment down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's video. And 2 last shout outs here. One to John for joining me last week. Great episode. Got a lot of good feedback. Hopefully we're going to hang out at least one more time before both of us go back to school in the next couple of weeks. So maybe next week, maybe the week after. He might not be on the show for another couple more months, but it's always great having John on. RJ as well, who was on the show about a month ago, right before we left campus. Hopefully we can get him back on at least maybe 1 or 2 more times when I catch up with him, when the school semester starts, in a couple more weeks. So without further ado, let's get down to this week's questions from you guys. Starting with the first KFC from YouTube. Will AJ Styles and everyone else that's possibly coming to WWE be used correctly on the main roster? I might have said this last week in last week's edition, but you can't live in fear. I know a lot of guys, and I'm truly emphasizing this here. I'm not exaggerating when I say there's a lot of NXT stars over the last couple of years have been called up and have not been used properly. Adam Rose, Bo Dallas, the list goes on and on. I mean, who else? Neville, to an extent. I know he's still, relatively popular. He's not a loser, or at least not 100% loser. He's been winning a lot more recently. But besides that, he has not been used to his full potential. There's a lot of guys from the last couple of years that have been called up and not been used properly. And even a lot of talented guys. Like I said, a lot of Bo Dallas, Adam Rose. But there are those that do give me hope. Like the Pages of the world, the Bray Wyatts. For the most part, his booking has not been amazing. But for the most part, by and large, he's still a special character. Kevin Owens, all members of the Shield. So there are exemptions to every rule such as that. When you get called up from NXT, you will flop, It has nothing to do with the talent. I mean, Owens was going to shine regardless. Bo Dallas and Adam Rose are both very talented. The Ascension is talented. They just got dealt a bad hand with their bad gimmicks, bad pushes, whatever it may be. It just didn't pan out too well for those guys. And there's still hope for all of those men. Maybe some more than others, but it's not entirely confirmed that when you get called up from NXT, you're going to flop. You're going to be a failure. That's not the case with everybody. And I feel like with AJ Styles, Nakamura, Doc Gallows, and Carl Anderson, I think Anderson and Gallows will be going to NXT. A lot of you guys asked questions about that. I'll be getting into more into that as we progress through the video here. I feel like those two are destined for NXT, at least first. With Balor, maybe they get called up to Raw immediately the night after WrestleMania as part of the Balor Club. I'll get to that shortly, like I said. But I feel like AJ Styles, based off the reports, will be just main roster bound. I'm not too sure about Nakamura. He could be like Hideo Itami, that he could go to NXT first to kind of learn the style. Same thing with Styles, maybe, but I feel like Styles is a lot more well-known, universally well-known, than the other three, like by a large margin. And his, time in TNA had a lot to do with that. And him being one of the greatest wrestlers, in my opinion, to never grace the WWE. Up to this point, anyway. So anyway, you just can't live in fear. I feel like they will be used properly. You said, will they be used properly? I mean, I can't tell the future. I can't tell you, will they or won't they? Based off nothing. We really have nothing to base this off of other than the reports that came out last week that they might be coming to WWE. I mean, if you rephrased it and said, should they be used properly? Absolutely. All 4 guys are tremendously talented. They're great athletes. They're great wrestlers. They definitely deserve to be used properly when they get called up to the main roster. Will they? It's anyone's guess. Like I said, I can't tell the future. I can't tell you that they will or won't be. They could flop. Who knows? But I'm the type of person, like I said last week, that as long as they were in WWE, even if their run wasn't all that we hoped it would be, I try to take the positives out of these kind of things. Even if their WWE runs, respectively, whatever, wasn't all that we hoped it would be, at least we could say we finally saw AJ Styles in WWE. There are those, which is not a wrong thing to believe, that I'd rather keep him in New Japan and not have WWE ruin him and, get one over on him just because he was with TNA for all those years and whatever, because he was a TNA guy, that he should not be, that they probably won't, because he was a TNA guy, he probably won't be used properly in WWE, which is, a lot of the case that a lot of people made with Sting, which I personally think that Sting made the decision to lose himself. I mean, he said it himself in his documentary, but which I still think is stupid. I think they should have rivaled that decision, had him win at WrestleMania. I know even if it was supposed to be his first and last match with the company, it would have just made that match with Seth Rollins mean a lot more and would have made a lot more sense than it did. But anyway, guys, I feel like I hate to drag this out longer than it should be, but will they be used properly? I can't tell you, but they definitely deserve to be, though. That kind of goes without saying. His second question, will Kalisto be a mid-card champion this year? RJ seems to think so. He put that in his bold predictions article, only on nextairwrestling.net, cheap plug. I think so, too. I think, he beat Del Rio on Friday, or on Thursday's SmackDown, which I thought was a really good match and a really good show overall. I mean, RJ himself actually asked me last week, who do you think will be next to challenge Del Rio for the U.S. title? And I stupidly completely forgot about Kalisto. I mean, he wasn't feuding with Del Rio at that time. He had yet to face him on SmackDown, and he was kind of involved in 6-man tag team matches with the New Day and whatever. So I didn't think that was really a possibility, but it is. And I imagine they're probably going to do that title match either at the Rumble, and I think I said this to RJ on, via text or whatever, that they'll probably do it on SmackDown. They had 2 title matches this past week, both of which were very, very good. They'll probably save that title match for SmackDown last week, maybe do a title change, give us our first title change on the show in 3 years, which coincidentally in the last game when Del Rio won the World Heavyweight Championship almost, I think 3 years ago to the day. I think it was exactly 3 years ago today that Del Rio won the World Heavyweight Championship. Go figure. But anyway, on SmackDown that is. But yeah, I feel like he could be, and he probably will be, and he should be, because the guy is a great talent. I've been singing his praises, since the moment he arrived in NXT 2 years ago. He's got a very good look. He sounds a lot like Rey Mysterio, which I'm not saying, as they always say, he's not Rey Mysterio 2.0, but he can fill that void that Mysterio left behind as WWE's top Latino star. Del Rio can be that too, but I just feel like Kalisto has a lot more to gain in that spot than Del Rio does. Del Rio has already been a 4-time world champion. I have no desire to see him as world champion again, in my personal opinion, especially with one world title belt. The guy is just not exciting. He had a good gimmick 5-6 years ago, but at this point, he's just not even damaged goods. I just feel like he was yesterday's news. He was a part of that crop of guys that WWE pushed way too quickly. Jack Swagger, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Del Rio, all these guys have one thing in common. WWE pushed them towards the world title way too quickly, or towards the top of the card way too quickly, and all fizzled out relatively quickly, a lot sooner than they probably should have. Kalisto, though, I feel like can kind of fill that void, and as opposed to Del Rio, and have a nice little run with the U.S. Championship, hopefully at some point. His third question, was Chris Jericho's recent return a disappointment? I don't think so. I mean, we've got a lot of mixed criticism, and we had someone ask the question about it, which I'll get to relatively, soon here in the video. A lot of you guys asked about Chris Jericho and why he's back, what he'll be doing at WrestleMania, what I think of his return, whatever. Was it a disappointment? I don't think so. First of all, I was genuinely shocked because I had not read the reports. I did read a headline earlier on in the day on last Monday that said huge spoiler on tonight's Raw. And I figured, they're probably kicking off the show with the title match or something dumb like that. Not for a second did I think we would get a big return or something like that. Otherwise, it would have been all over the internet. Someone would have tweeted me or something, which thank God you guys didn't, so I appreciate that because you guys know I hate spoilers. But yeah, I was genuinely surprised when it came out during the New Day Countdown. I thought it was great. It was a really cool return. It was shades of his 1999 debut promo, which was obvious, and he said that himself on his podcast, which was fine. I think, and I've said this before, Jericho doesn't come back for no reason. He's back here for a reason. He's back to do something special, either with the New Day or Ambrose or whoever. Going into WrestleMania season, he'll be a part of the Rumble match, which is great. Add even more star power to the Rumble match. So, I don't think it was a disappointment. I'm just looking forward to seeing what's next for him. I think the return itself was cool. A nice little surprise. He popped the crowd. For those people who didn't like the promo itself, like the Tootie Booty Fruity or whatever the hell it was, Tootie Fruity Booty, whatever the hell he said in this promo. I don't blame you. I didn't think it was an amazing line. It was right up there with the Tater Tots line. But, I think we just got to hold out hope. It's not like, not hold out hope, but I think we just got to kind of wait and see. It's kind of one of those cases where, first night in, it's a bust or whatever. I thought it was a cool little return. He interrupted the New Day. He said he was in the Rumble match. It succeeded in what it set out to do and hyping up his appearance in the Rumble match and his participation in the bout. So I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm a huge Jerichoholic, so you're asking the wrong person. I'm always going to say, yes, I enjoyed it. But, no, I don't think it was a disappointment. I'm just looking forward to seeing what's next for him going into WrestleMania season. I have a good idea, and we'll get to that pretty soon. What is your least favorite show on the WWE Network? Good question, because I don't have a lot of them. I was looking through the shows last night, all the original shows, obviously, and looking through which ones I didn't really care for too much. I love them all. I love the WWE Network. I'm such a mark like that. I love all the original shows they have on there for the most part. Even Unfiltered with Renee Young. I think she has great interviews with Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, Finn Balor, Sasha Banks just recently, Dolph Ziggler. She's had a lot of good interviews too. Culture Shock, I wouldn't call my least favorite. It's not wrestling oriented. So, but it's something for, Corey Graves to do. I like Corey Graves. It's a decent show. It's not for everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's a fine show. I wouldn't call my least favorite though. The WWE list is essentially a knockoff of Countdown, which I liked a little bit more. The WWE list isn't bad or anything. I don't know if I would call my least favorite. I watch it. It just has a lot of celebrities on there, or, celebrities. They're like C-list celebrities, but celebrities nevertheless. At least the wrestling fans, they know what they're talking about for the most part. I guess the cheap answer would be Slam City, because technically that's a show on the WWE Network. I don't know if that would count or not, because I know that aired elsewhere on the internet, on WWE's website or whatever. So I guess I would go with Slam City, but if you want to be technical and not count that, I'd probably go with the WWE list, just because it's a direct ripoff of Countdown, and there's really no difference, and I like Countdown more. Frankishire 15, what is one thing TNA Impact really needs to work on right now? So I thought the premiere on Pop TV last week was good. I didn't think it was great, or I didn't think it was disappointing. I thought it was fine. The wrestling was fine. They got a couple cool moments. James Storm's back. Awesome Kong turned heel, new world champion. So a couple good moments that I enjoyed. The debut of Mike Bennett and Maria, which was also pretty good. I'm looking forward to seeing what those guys do. One thing they need to work on right now, there's a lot of things. They really have no star power. They just need to continue building new stars, which, people have been saying for years now. But other than EC3, which I will give them credit for, what stars have they made? Matt Hardy just main evented the most recent episode of Teen Impact. And I love Matt Hardy. As you guys know, one of my favorites and an inspirational icon of mine, but the guy's 40-something years old. If he's main eventing for the World Championship in 2016 in TNA, it goes back to the same issues they've had for years, that they don't know how to create new stars, and they're just bringing in WWE, ripoffs. I'm not saying, that's the WWE retirement home. You can call it that if you want. But for years, their main eventers consisted of Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle, Sting, Booker T, Kevin Nash, all these other guys. People like Styles and Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe would get a run with the belt here and there, but by and large, it was a lot of guys that were already established and were going to leave anyway. I think, even the people they tried to build up, like the Chris Sabins and their own AJ Styles and Magnus, all people they gave the belt to, they left because they didn't like what was going on in TNA. They didn't like their own affairs. Even Bully Ray, who I would call a TNA made guy. I mean, he made his career obviously in ECW and WWE. Bubba Ray did, not Bully Ray. Bully Ray was completely a TNA project, completely a TNA experiment that succeeded. And even he left the company, a couple times, but even just most recently as last summer because he didn't like the direction the company was going in. So every time they try to create a new star, they always, take off. With the exception of Bobby Roode, who is still there miraculously, but he's still there. Just continue to build new stars. The production could use, some work. I don't like how they just tape all their shows ahead of time. I know NXT does the same exact thing, but last year was awful. When they taped like 20 shows, not even 20, like 100, 500 matches or what the hell it was in like 10 days time, overworked their wrestlers, and they didn't tape any new content for almost 6 months. That was pretty bad. And I know they didn't have a TV deal, but they need to have more tapings more frequently. I think, above all else is just their self-awareness. The company has no fucking self-awareness. Bully Ray has said it a million times. I think maybe Kurt Angle, maybe Sting and a few others, but self-awareness is TNA's, has been and always will be their number one issue. They have no idea how to get the word out there about their own product. Even when they had guys like Hulk Hogan, recognizable names, Hulk Hogan, who is Mr. Wrestling, the first person that you think of when it comes to wrestling, other than maybe The Rock nowadays, because he's in everything like movie, he's in everything Hollywood related. But when you think professional wrestling, or any casual fan thinks pro wrestling, you think of Hulk Hogan, or they think of Hulk Hogan. But even when they had Hulk Hogan, he did nothing to help boost the company's brand awareness. He would go on American Idol. I remember when I used to watch American Idol. I don't watch it anymore because the show went to shit. I heard it was better on Tuesday. Anyway, the most recent season premiere, which I think is their last season. Anyway, though, when I used to watch a show about 5 or 6 years ago, I think he showed up because James Durbin was a huge wrestling fan. He was on Talk as Jericho a couple years ago too. But he was on American Idol. He was wearing he might have been wearing a TNA shirt, but people were, they were calling him a WWE Hall of Famer or a WWE legend, wrestling legend. Nothing about TNA. He would never promote TNA. So, obviously part of that is Hogan's fault for not doing it, but you got to put some blame on the company for not kind of growing a set of balls and saying to Hulk, hey Hulk, can you at least go out there and, tell viewers where to find TNA Impact Wrestling and so on and so forth, but they never did that, and obviously that's why Hogan's time in TNA was a massive failure. He did nothing of note there, or at least anything positive, or for the most part anyway. Made a lot of dumb decisions. Giving him power was the worst thing he could have done, but anyway, along with building new stars, something that TNA needs to work on is brand awareness. It's awful. People don't even know they're on TV. People like Kurt Angle and Rob Van Dam have gone on the record and saying that even Rob Van Dam, I think specifically, and Bubba Ray, when they went back to WWE, people would tell them, where have you been for the last 10 years? Now, I loved you in WWE, but where have you been and what have you been up to? And they would be like, I was on TV every Thursday night at 9 on Spike TV. People didn't even know they were still wrestling. They didn't even know they were on Impact because people don't know Impact exists, At least back in the day, at least 15, 16 years ago, people nowadays don't know what it is, but, back in the day when people would bring up wrestling, of course, the first thing they would think of is WWE, WWF, because that was the first thing, whatever they grew up on. But at least WCW was big enough to have that brand awareness, and people knew who they were and what they were, and the stars that they had, because they had great brand awareness, and they were in a big channel. They were, obviously backed up by a big company, but so is Panda Energy. That's a big company too. I don't know. But brand awareness is their biggest issue that TNA really needs to work on. It's been their issue for years, and it probably will continue to be until they start improving upon that. In his second question, speaking of the Dudley Boys, his question was, should the Dudley Boys split up? I saw a report about that over the weekend saying that WWE was contemplating splitting them up, which wouldn't be the worst thing, because I know they might want to bring back Bully Ray as out of his TNA gimmick, his TNA character, which would be awesome. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like the Dudley Boys have only been back for about 4 or 5 months. I know they haven't been winning a lot, but they're here to put people over. And I'm sure a lot of that is their own input. They're like the Jerichos of the tag team division, which is completely fine by me. They're still entertaining. They're still having good matches. It's not like we're bringing in the fucking nasty boys in TNA who couldn't wrestle for shit. They were never over. They did nothing in TNA when Hogan brought them in back in 2010. That was fucking awful. At least the Dudley Boys are selling merch. They're over. They have good matches. So it's, it's not the worst possible scenario that, what they're doing right now is the worst. They're not getting buried. I'm sure a lot of that is their own input that they want to put over the younger stars. That said, I'm hoping, and I'm going to write an article about this at some point. It's been in the works for a while. I haven't actually written the article yet, but it's in my ideas list. But I honestly think they should save the Dudley Boys title win. I think their 10th tag team title win in WWE anyway, for WrestleMania. They've said before that WrestleMania 31 or 32 rather will mark their 20th anniversary in the business. Maybe not that day, but that month of April 2016 will mark their 20th anniversary in pro wrestling as a tag team. So I feel like there's no better way to commemorate the occasion by giving them the belts at WrestleMania in Dallas. It would be, or at Arlington, whatever. It would be a huge win for the Dudley Boys. Maybe you keep the belts on the New Day until then, who knows. So I would give them the belts then. I would give them at least one tag team title reign before they split up, which hopefully won't be anytime soon. I know we're lacking in star power right now, but we need also top credible heels, because Sheamus is a top heel, but he's not credible at all. So maybe at some point I would love to see Bully Ray in WWE. I don't know if they would treat the character as good as they did in TNA, because it's a TNA creation, and anything that was WCW or TNA or anything that's not WWE, they don't like to give that other company credit. So I know that people have come in with their old gimmicks. Even Sting wasn't who he once was in WCW. Not that I figured he would be anyway. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not exactly sure when they would do it or how they would handle the character. I'm not exactly sure. But hopefully not anytime soon. And they will do it at some point, just not right now. I would give them at least one tag team title reign before they split up and they branch them off in a singles competition. Captain Sunshine from YouTube. Frank Ashir, I think I said from Twitter, but that was from YouTube too. I stupidly wrote on Twitter there. But Captain Sunshine from YouTube. I'm liking the Charlotte and Becky Lynch storyline more and more as it progresses. Becky Lynch is gradually getting over with the audience more organically than Sasha Banks' contrarian-based "We Want X" chants. Sasha's popularity at the moment is living more on "Why won't WWE do this" instead of that? Why won't they realize what we want? Why do they not seem interested, instead of the acclaim she earned on NXT? When it comes to the main roster, Becky seems to be more hopeful right now, though. And Charlotte is actually getting heat for cheating. Charlotte tried to toughen up Becky, so now she's fighting fire with fire, and Charlotte can only get so mad at Becky for doing what she told her to do. I've always had doubts on WWE's ability to keep momentum going, but this storyline might actually be the most promising right now. Best program at the moment, ? I don't know if it's it probably is. I was going to argue Owens and Ambrose, and that's up there too. I feel like WWE is really doing right by both feuds. That's, I said to John last week, or he said to me, best IC title feud in a long while. The first IC title feud we've gotten in a long time, in my opinion, that I actually give a shit about everyone involved. Owens and Ambrose. I love both guys, so I'm loving their matches. I'm loving their feud. They're progressing it nicely every single week. They're doing very well by the Owens and Ambrose feud, so I feel like that could also be argued that is the best program at the moment, but not far behind is Charlotte and Becky. Like you said, some great character development. I said it in my Raw and SmackDown reviews respectively last week, and I've been giving the women, or at least WWE, shit for the past 6 months of the whole Divas Revolution. It's all about these fucking 6 Divas tag team matches, and we want this and we want that, like you said, but finally we're getting real characters in this division. Becky Lynch wasn't connecting with the crowd, but she seems like she finally is. She was over on both Raw and SmackDown this week. I don't know, which is weird. The crowds in Texas last week on Raw and SmackDown weren't exactly hot. Yet we had Brooklyn a couple weeks ago, only 2 weeks ago, and they weren't going crazy for Becky. In fact, they chanted, "This is boring" during match with Sasha on Raw that week. So, but I think it's great. They're finally giving her a character that people can, attach themselves with and, kind of invest in right now, which is awesome. Charlotte, she could use a little bit more work, but I love her as a heel. I was never really a fan of her as a babyface, even when she first started in NXT a couple years ago. She's always done better as the heel. I know she got over as a babyface for her in-ring skills in NXT, but on the main roster, there really wasn't any reason to like her. She's Ric Flair's daughter, whoopity-doo-dah, who cares? That's great and all, but I feel like that gimmick as being Ric Flair's daughter works even better as a heel when she's cheating and she's the dirtiest players the dirtiest player in the Divas division. That gimmick works as a heel a lot better than it does as a babyface. I know Ric Flair was one of the biggest babyfaces of his time 10, 15, 20 years ago, but that's just because he earned the respect of fans. Charlotte has yet to do that, so turning her heel right now is a great idea, and I think Having Becky beat her on Raw only for Charlotte to cement her heel turn by attacking her afterwards was great. The match on SmackDown was really, really good. She cheated to win. Maybe we get a rematch of the Rumble. So they're really doing right by that feud. I would not argue with you if you call that the best feud right now. Like I said, Ambrose and Owens is also up there, but needless to say, WWE is doing great by both feuds, and hopefully we get a more one-on-one matches between Becky and Charlotte as well as Ambrose and Owens going into the Rumble pay-per-view. Mark S., his question from Facebook. First one being, who would you like to see face Alberto Del Rio for the U.S. title, and who do you think he will drop the title to? So RJ asked the same question last week. At the time, I said Ziggler or Ryback, not because I wanted to see those feuds. We've seen them a million times, especially Ziggler. Just because I had the feeling they would probably pair Ziggler with either one of those guys. They would pair Del Rio, rather, with one of the two of those guys, just because there really wasn't anyone else. But after what we saw on SmackDown last week, it should be Kalisto. It should be his next feud for the U.S. Championship. Should be with Kalisto. Those guys have good chemistry. Their first Raw match wasn't anything special. I thought it was kind of disappointing, but the SmackDown match was really good. Kalisto got the upset win, albeit with some help from John Cena via distraction at ringside, but it was a good win for Kalisto, and hopefully he drops the title to him. Del Rio's not lighting the world on fire as U.S. champion. Kalisto, he's not exactly over yet, but he's on his way, and I feel like giving him the title would only help boost his push. So, yeah, I would give the U.S. title to Kalisto, hopefully sooner rather than later, either, like I said, on an upcoming episode of Raw or SmackDown, or and I would do it on SmackDown just to boost interest in the show and say, like, anything can happen on SmackDown, something that hasn't happened in 3 years, exactly to the day, like I said. Or do it at the Rumble. Or I don't know if they would wait until WrestleMania to do it. Maybe you could do a rematch at WrestleMania. I don't know what they do with Del Rio at WrestleMania. Honestly, I don't really care. Maybe they do League of Nations and Wyatt Family. I don't really know. But I would drop the title to Kalisto. He's a great talent. He has the potential to be big in WWE if they choose to utilize him properly. His second question, who would you like to see win the Royal Rumble, and who would you like to see be in the match at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight title? Who do I want to see win the Rumble? I mean, like I said, Styles would be amazing. I'm not counting on it. That's a fucking long shot. We don't even know if he's going to be in the Rumble, but it'd be amazing if he won it his first night in. That'd be historic. I don't think anyone has ever won the World Championship in their debut match. For WWE, I know Big Show did it against Hogan in WCW, but in WWE, I don't think anyone has ever wrestled their first match for the company and won the championship their first night in. So you never know. But that being said, I would go with Styles or Brock Lesnar. I know Owens, I've said before, Owens would be great. I'm not counting on it at this point, but Owens would be awesome. Yeah, Brock Lesnar seems to be the most likely, and I would give the championship to him just because I know, we did the whole Brock Lesnar's champion experiment last year, but he needs to be in a top match at WrestleMania, and I feel like he will be either against Reigns or Sheamus or Bray Wyatt or somebody. He'll be facing a top name at WrestleMania for the championship. I don't know where else he fits in the equation other than that. So, yeah, probably Brock Lesnar, Owens, or Styles are all people I would love to see win the Rumble. I'm not counting on any one. Brock Lesnar is obviously most likely. But kind of going into the second part of your question, who do I want to see in the World Heavyweight title match at WrestleMania? RJ pitched it last week, AJ Styles and John Cena. Obviously, that's not happening because Styles got hurt. Styles and... Sorry, my voice is starting to go again. I had my voice for the better part of the weekend. I'm starting to lose it again. But anyway, yeah, I would go with... In the title match, it's probably going to be Lesnar Reigns again, but... Which would be fine if they change up the story and it's not the same thing they did last year. I'd be fine with that. It's just got to be something new and something we haven't seen before. And even if it is something we've seen before, like a Lesnar Owens or Lesnar... That's the title match I would do, Lesnar Owens. I don't know if that's not going to be the match, but that's the title match I would love to see, Owens and Lesnar. But it's probably going to be Lesnar and Reigns, which is, again, fine. I feel like it should be Lesnar and Triple H, and then... rather, not again. Fuck no. God, no, not again, please. Rather Lesnar Owens, and then Roman Reigns and Triple H. That makes the most sense to me, but they're probably going to do Lesnar Reigns, which is fine, and if they do, they just got to change up the story from last. That's all I ask for. His third question, out of all the new guys that are rumored to have signed with WWE from New Japan Pro Wrestling, where do you think they will best fit in? Either in NXT or on the main roster, AJ Styles, Suzuki Nakamura, Luke Gallows, and Carl Anderson as a tag team. Who do I think will be the best fit? It's gotta be AJ. Nakamura is an amazing talent. Probably those two are the best, or two of the best, if not the two best wrestlers in the world right now. I feel like Nakamura might have a harder time getting over just because less people know who he is and the whole Japanese stereotype thing that WWE tends to do. I mean, they haven't done it with Asuka or Hideo Itami, which is good. Depends whether he goes straight to the main roster or not. But and then Anderson and Gallows are a good tag team. I haven't seen enough of them. I know they're a very good tag team. I haven't seen too much of them to know whether they're the best team in the world right now. But Styles is going to make an amazing impact, a phenomenal impact, pun intended, no matter where he ends up, either in NXT or the main roster. So I got to go with Styles. I feel like he'll definitely be the best pick out of anybody. Nakamura's up there, but I feel like Styles, there's a better chance that he will get over with the audience just because people already know who he is. Not everybody, but a portion of the audience already knows who he is, and he can connect with those crowds as a babyface. And his fourth question here, do you think the Social Outcasts group will be a success, or are they better off as individual wrestlers? I can't tell you if it's going to be a success or not, but I have said before, like I said in my Raw review last week, like I said, I think John and I said it last week too here in the video, that I don't think it's going to be like, the next Shield or anything like that, but I'm willing to give it a chance, and it's something new. It's something intriguing. I'm glad to see it. I'm more intrigued by fucking Social Outcasts right now than I am for fucking, Dolph Ziggler, who has not done anything in forever, or at least anything like of note. So I don't know if it's going to be a success per se, and they're probably only doing it for the Rumble, just to, how we have the numbers game and we have, the 4-1 odds, whatever. They're probably just doing it for the Rumble, but even if that's the case, at least they're doing something with these four guys. They should include maybe Sandow or even Zack Ryder, but the four guys they have are good. Adam Rose, Axel, Heath Slater, and Bo Dallas are all very underutilized, and I'm glad to see WWE is finally doing something with them. And we'll see where it goes. I hope it's not like another 3MB, because I hated 3MB. They were just, maybe I'm supposed to hate 3MB, but I just didn't care for them at all. It's like, channel changing bad, because I didn't care. And the whole, I hated 3MB. But these guys would be fine. They don't have much chemistry on paper, but at least they're finally doing something with them, which is encouraging to see. And the next question comes from Andre G, also from Facebook. When Alex Riley returns, should he go back to NXT or in the main roster? I don't read spoilers for NXT, but I did hear in the last couple days that he returned to the most recent tapings. So he'll be on one of the upcoming episodes in a match against Bull Dempsey. I don't know whether he wins or not, whether he's heel or babyface. I don't know. Like I said, I don't read the spoilers because I don't like to read spoilers. But, so obviously that answers your question. He'll be back in NXT when it comes back, which should be, in the next couple weeks. He is back in the ring. He's ready to go. He's been out since last May. But it looks like he'll be a part of NXT going forward, which is probably the best fit for him, let's be honest. I know WWE is lacking star power right now, and they can use all the stars they can get on the main roster. But Alex Riley, even if he got called up right now, he probably wouldn't be used properly. I know the guy's like 30-something years old. His time was 5 years ago. I get that. But he has a better chance of having a nice little run for himself in NXT as opposed to the main roster, because at this point, I have no idea what they would do with him on Raw or SmackDown. He'd be another fucking... He'd probably be a part of the Social Outcasts because he has no other place in the roster right now. But that being said, I feel like, he has a great little run in him for NXT. That's where he can get over. He was over before he left as a babyface. Even if he comes back as a heel, that's fine too. He was great as a heel back in the day. I say back in the day, it was only 5 or 6 years ago. But anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing Alex Riley come back. It's been a long time coming. I'm one of his few fans. I know he's not the most popular person amongst the IWC, but I've always been an Alex Riley fan. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does come back, what he does upon his return in NXT when he comes back. His second question: who do you think should face The Undertaker at WrestleMania? A lot of people have asked me this question this week. A lot of questions I'll probably just skip over the rest when I get to them. But I wrote a whole article about it on Hidden Remote over the weekend. I mean, a lot of them. I wrote an article about 7 choices that you can go with as Undertaker's opponent at WrestleMania. And you can check out the article for yourself. And a lot of them weren't really matches I would love to see. But it seems like the most likely right now with John Cena being out, and that looks like the match that appears to be the match they're going to go with. If it's not Cena, and I don't think it will be because I don't think he'll be back in time. People have said Daniel Bryan. I don't think he'll be back in time for WrestleMania, to be honest with you. Maybe he will be. I'd love to be wrong. I just don't think he will be. And I don't think he'll be in a match with Undertaker. He should be, but I don't think he will be. Man, it's really hard to say. there's no John Cena. Like I said, I did a whole list with 7 people, but none of those choices that I gave were really like jumped off the page of me. Like I put Rock down. I don't think Rock's wrestling though. That was kind of like on the off chance that he does. Maybe they could do Rock Taker. I know there's always people have said Nakamura would be amazing. I'm not banking on that at all. Or like an AJ Styles again would be amazing. I'm not banking on that at all. Sheamus would be nice, I guess, just because it's something new. I don't give a shit about Sheamus right now, or the League of Nations, or the League of Losers. But, yeah, it's something new. You know, I don't really know. I can't answer that question. A lot of people have been asking me that. It's the question that's been all over social media this week. Just in general, not towards me, you know, specifically, but everyone's been asking the question, who faces Undertaker WrestleMania now? You know, they could do Kane again. I honestly just don't care to see Kane against Taker at WrestleMania again. If it's Taker's last match, maybe. But their match is not going to be good. I can promise you that. Their match is not going to be good. And it'd be worse probably than Lesnar Taker from WrestleMania 30. So, I don't know. Check out my full article and hit a remote for my full answer. I mean, there's other options I listed there that probably are not coming to mind right now. But it's hard to say. Sheamus, Rock. You know, I would say Finn Balor. I feel like Finn Balor would be an awesome choice to face Undertaker WrestleMania. I put that in the article too. And he might be the most likely, you know, if they really were really at a, like, fuck, like, what do we do with Taker now? We got to call somebody up to face him at WrestleMania. Other than maybe Samoa Joe, Finn Balor makes the most sense, just, based off the entrances alone. And the Balor versus the Demon, or the Balor versus the Demon, the Demon versus the Dead Man sells itself. Give me a break. And you can have Balor win, put him over at WrestleMania, or even if he loses, make him look strong in defeat, you know? So, yeah, I'd probably go with Balor as the best choice to face Taker WrestleMania. I'm not counting on it at all because he's probably still going to be, NXT champion by the time WrestleMania comes around, which, isn't out of the ordinary. Big E, Seth Rollins, and, what's his name? I know I'm completely forgetting Kevin Owens. I know there was a third person. I just forgot it was Owens. Kevin Owens came up all as NXT champion. All 3 of those guys did. And they had pretty big pushes upon their, upon getting called up. So that said, I would not be surprised if he got called up and to face Undertaker WrestleMania, because that match would be kick-ass. Next question, his next question. Do you think Dolph Ziggler will be the leader of these social outcasts? I don't think so. I think he was just kind of doing the job for him, the job squad, no pun intended, I guess. But I don't think he will be. I just don't think they have anything really to do with Dolph Ziggler right now. It would be interesting. I think Heath Slater has that role down pat as a part of the core, Nexus 3MB. He's been in groups his whole career in WWE, so being a part of this one isn't really anything new for him, but he's good in that role. I like Slater a lot more when he's in groups like that. I hated 3MB, but I loved him in Nexus and Core to an extent. When he was facing the Legends and doing that thing, I thought that was great. So, he is sometimes good on his own, but by and large, I'm a lot more intrigued by him when he's a part of these groups than I am when he's on his own. But I don't think Dolph Ziggler will be a part of it. He might be. It'd be interesting. At least turn Dolph Ziggler heel, because he's staler than a month-old bread. He's more stale. I don't know what the exact wording would be, but he's more stale right now than a piece of month-old bread, because I just don't give a shit about him. He's a great wrestler, but I just don't give a fuck about Dolph Ziggler. At the Wrestle Guy from Twitter, his question was, with both John Cena and Sting most likely being off WrestleMania, who do you feel should step up to face The Undertaker? Like I said, Finn Balor. There's not many other people that I would love to see, like the Wyatt family again. Give me a break. I don't care. Would not want to see that match at WrestleMania again. We got it at Survivor Series, which was good for the 25th anniversary. But at WrestleMania, I don't give a shit. Bray Wyatt Taker again? Don't give a shit. Triple H Taker again? Or Lesnar Taker again? Don't give a shit. So probably Balor would be the best choice in my opinion. Other than that, there's not many choices. I mean, like I said, Daniel Bryan, I don't think it would be clear. That'd be a great fucking match, but I don't think it's happening. I would love to be wrong. I just don't see it happening. Nakamura, same thing. Rock and Sheamus are kind of long shots. More Rock than Sheamus. Sheamus is a possibility, but I don't know if they would go with that as a WrestleMania match. Rusev, someone brought up to me. I think Mark brought that up on the Facebook page. I would see Sheamus facing Taker before Rusev, just because Sheamus is like the leader of that group. But yeah, Finn Balor would be my dream opponent to face Undertaker WrestleMania 32 and feel like the biggest match that they could do with anyone not named John Cena. Other than maybe The Rock, but like I said, I feel like that's not happening. At Cody Collier 37, who do you think will face Undertaker at WrestleMania and why? Like I said, Finn Balor just because it's something new and there really aren't many other options. At Swagzio, who's your least favorite team in NXT right now? Probably Blake and Murphy. They're good athletes. They just got... What is their gimmick? They don't have to have a gimmick, but there's just really not anything... They don't have anything going right now, which is not surprising. They're not NXT Tag Team Champions anymore, and they haven't been for a while. I love Alexa Bliss. She'd be great on her own. She could probably split off and do, a managerial role for Blake or whoever. I think she's, in a legitimate relationship with in real life. And they've teased splitting them up in the last couple of weeks, so I would not be surprised if they did that. But aside from that, I would like to see Alexa go off on her own. So, yeah, other than that, Blake and Murphy are pretty dull, so I'd go with them as my least favorite tag team. I love Dash and Dawson. Enzo and Cass, as well as Chad Gable and Jason Jordan speak for themselves. Two great tag teams. Hell, I even like the Hype Bros. I don't mind the Hype Bros. I'm a big fan of Zack Ryder. I don't really care for Mojo Rawley, but it's not a bad tag team. It gives Ryder something to do, and it, prevents Mojo from getting in singles competition. So I can be completely fine with them continuing to team on the main roster or in NXT or whatever. But yeah, so that being said, process of elimination, I just don't care about Blake and Murphy. I even like the Vaudevillains to an extent. Blake and Murphy just don't really do much for me. They're good wrestlers, but they really don't have any characters. I like Murphy as a singles guy, but other than that, their team really doesn't do much for me. Will WrestleMania 32 be affected without John Cena? Absolutely. Like I said, the guy was supposed to be in a match originally against The Undertaker, so without that match happening, WWE is just scrambling to find an opponent for Taker WrestleMania, and this is around the time they start to set in stone their match plans for the big stage, for the show of shows, baby, the granddaddy of them all. So they need to scramble pretty quickly and find that a match for WrestleMania for, The Undertaker. Otherwise, they're going to be out of match for Taker, which obviously will be a part of the show regardless. He's their biggest star that is not injured right now. Fingers crossed. I hate to jinx it or anything like that, but yeah, John Cena, according to reports, it looked like it. I don't know who else he would have faced other than maybe Roman Reigns. But Taker and Cena looked like it was a lock for WrestleMania without John Cena being there, and I don't think he will be. WWE's fucked. They need to find another opponent for Undertaker WrestleMania, so the card will be drastically changed. I can promise you that. Without John Cena being a part of the show of shows. The first WrestleMania without John Cena being, wrestling a match in the card. He was a part of WrestleMania 19, maybe in a dark match or in a segment or something. He was on the show. I don't know if it was on Heat or something, but he was at WrestleMania 19. He wasn't at 18, obviously. That was before he got called up. So this would be the first WrestleMania without John Cena completely, not even a wrestling match on the card, since 2002, 14 years ago, which is incredible. Not in a good way either. Just unbelievable. So WWE is pretty fucked, and hopefully, I feel like it could still be a great WrestleMania. RG said it in his article. I've seen other people say it. This can still be a great WrestleMania if they play their cards right, no pun intended, and they can get all the star power that they can and utilize the star power that they have properly, and they can make a couple of very intriguing matches for WrestleMania. At Scarlet One from the Twitter, their question was, I've been noticing a lot of the IWC have been turning on Chris Jericho, partly because of his returns becoming more and more frequent, but more significantly, the consensus is that he's becoming the cool dad Chris Jericho, is stale and an unfunny character. Have you heard this retort, or his retort on his recent podcast that, one, he returns because it's fun, and there's still more for him to offer. There's still more for him to offer, which is fair, as, at Scarlet One said. And two, if you don't really like his stuff, the Rudy Tooth Booty or whatever he said, too bad because crowds like it, so go watch some Kurdigard or whatever they said, which is a less fair argument. Yes, I have seen that. A lot of people were not thrilled to see Chris Jericho, which, again, is fine. I'm a Jerichoholic, so I marked out for it. I thought it was great. I wasn't, enamored with the Rudy Tooty Booty line or anything like that, but, yeah, I thought it was a fine return. And I think the best has yet to come with Jericho. Don't base his return off of just one appearance. I know a lot of people like to do that, but it was just one way of introducing him, getting back on his storylines, and announcing him for the Royal Rumble, which was the goal, and they succeeded in doing that. And I'm excited to see what they do with Jericho in the Rumble and going forward into WrestleMania. And he will be a part of WrestleMania. He's already advertised for Fastlane, so he's not going to be a part of Royal Rumble and Fastlane and then not go to WrestleMania. You know what I mean? They need star power for the show of shows, and Jericho should be and will likely be a part of it. But yeah, I mean, his arguments that, oh, if you don't like it, then too bad. What else is he going to say? Like, oh, it wasn't a good return or whatever. He's not going to say that. So I don't blame him for saying, like, if you don't like it, then too bad because crowds like it. Of course, he's not going to listen to that negative criticism. I wouldn't either. Who gives a shit? He's not going to give a shit. He's not going to give a shit what you and I think, whether we like it or not. I mean, he's going to appreciate if we like it, but if we don't like it, he doesn't care, nor should he care. Why should he care about whether you like it or whether you don't like it or whether I don't like it? He doesn't care about those naysayers. He only really cares about the people that appreciated it. And like I said before, Jericho doesn't come back for no reason. He's here for a reason. And like I've said before, I've been saying this for months. Jericho and Ambrose is likely a lock for WrestleMania 32 as far as I'm concerned. For the Intercontinental Championship would be a great match to do at WrestleMania. So Jericho Ambrose is what I'm putting my money on. Maybe eliminates Ambrose from the Rumble, setting up that match for Mania. Who knows? But yeah, I'm looking forward to him. Even if he goes heel, which I think is great. People were not thrilled with the Rudy Tooty booty line or whatever from Raw last week. But maybe it's just kind of like you said, maybe like a lot of people aren't really enamored with Jericho being back because he feels stale right now, and we've kind of seen the same character for the last couple of years. But that's the same thing that happened with his heel character back in 2012. He had a great feud with CM Punk, but beyond that, it felt like, we've seen this heel Jericho before. We saw him back in 2010. We've seen him in 08, 09, 2011. Or maybe not in 2011. He wasn't around in 2011. But we've seen this Jericho before. So right around the time he starts to get stale, like he did in 07, as the babyface, he felt stale, so he went heel. So I feel like that's where this is leading. He will be a heel, before long, and likely a feud with Ambrose, which I feel like has the potential to be amazing. And their second question, what is the one finishing sequence to a Royal Rumble that stood out to you? There's really no argument here. Michaels and Undertaker from 07, which was amazing. Actually, I'm doing a whole article on the best finishing sequences in Royal Rumble match history, the top 10 for What Culture in the next couple days. So be on the lookout for that. Perfect plug, perfect time to plug it. Perfect tie in there. But yeah, I'll be doing a whole article on the best Royal Rumble finishes in the event's history to the Rumble matches. And that's my number one, as I'm sure it is for many of you. What a great final few minutes. Jericho and Sheamus from 2012 was great. Even 08 and with Cena and Taker. 92 with Flair. I think it was perfect, right? Flair and Perfect. Or Flair and Luger. Because, not Luger. Sid Justice. Like, all those Rumble endings were great. Even when Mysterio won in 06 was a great ending. But nothing to me will ever top Michaels and Taker. Maybe something will top it someday, but as far as what we've seen so far, nothing to me has topped Michaels and Taker from 07, which really set the stage for their matches in the years to come. 07, they had that great finishing sequence in the Rumble. Both guys went on to contend for world championships at Mania anyway, so either guy could win. Michaels either his third Rumble or Taker's first, and Taker ultimately won. So, and it might have been in Texas that night too. I don't think it was, but it would be awesome if it was. I completely forgot. But we had Taker and Michaels in the end of the 07 Rumble. They kicked off the 08 Rumble. In 09, they had that one brief backstage segment that planted the seeds for the WrestleMania match. And in 2010, Michaels was trying to win the Rumble to get to WrestleMania to face Undertaker for the World Heavyweight Championship. So the last 4 Rumbles of Michaels' career involved Taker, which was awesome, which I think is so great. And awesome storytelling from year to year to year. So, yeah, there's nothing topping that for me that really stood out to me. The best finishing sequence in Royal Rumble match history is Michaels and Taker from the 07 Rumble, which wasn't an amazing Rumble, but those final few minutes were what I thought phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Their next question, could you rank the Austin Rock WrestleMania trilogy 15, 17, and 19? Also, how weird is WWE's numbering scheme? It is very weird. I don't know how WWE, what the theme is there. You put WrestleMania 15, like WM15, then X7, then XI7, or no, I'm sorry, XIX, for 19. Their numbering scheme is very odd. But anyway, you will never see that with any other company other than just WWE. WWE is just a very odd company to begin with. But anyway, if I had to rank their WrestleMania trilogy, I would go with WrestleMania 15. I thought it was the best wrestled match of the 3. It led to Austin winning the belt. Then 17. The finish I didn't like. Not just because Austin went heel, but even before that, I know a lot of people remember Austin going heel, but if you watch the match itself, which was really entertaining, but the finish itself, Vinnie Mac and Austin, are revealed to be in cahoots, and he attacks Rock with the chair, and he kicks out. And then he kicks out again, and then he finally hits him with a stunner, and then he wins. It's not like he passes in the chair, knocks him out, and then wins, which would be the ideal finish. They dragged it out a little longer than they should have, and by the end, it was really they kind of dragged out the shock factor to the point where, not that it didn't mean anything, but I don't know. I feel like the moment should have just been condensed to a moment or two and not 5 minutes. So, 15, 17, and 19, I loved all their matches, needless to say, and I thought 19 was actually a lot better than some people think it is. I thought it was great from a storytelling standpoint, Austin's final WWE match. I thought it was great, but compared to the other two, I thought the other two were better wrestled, and that match was kind of more finishers and exchanging of finishers than anything else. So I would go in chronological order, from best to worst, 15, 17, and then 19, but all were amazing regardless. Even 19 is better than most WrestleMania main events in the last 30 plus years. At Brad Bernard's got a couple questions here. First one being, how do you think the fans would react to Chris Jericho winning the Royal Rumble? That's a great question. I think the internet would not be. It's not like they would. The crowd would not riot. I know we're in Orlando, so the crowd would not go oh, fuck this, Jericho's winning the Rumble. There are people, like I said before, at Scarlet One brought up, there are those members of the IWC, which a term I hate using, by the way, because everyone has the internet, so it's dumb, it's outdated, but anyway. And even they put it in quotes, but I know what you mean by that. There are members of, the internet, like I saw last week, that were not happy with Jericho being back just because it's a shtick we've seen a number of times before, which is understandable. So those people might not be happy. But I know for a fact that it would lead to something big at WrestleMania. I would love to see it. It'd be a better scenario than what I'll be talking about soon enough. I know RJ asked me, best and worst scenarios for Rumble winners, and I'll get to that shortly. But Jericho winning would not be the worst case scenario. That would be probably one of the better case scenarios because no one sees it coming. And if it leads to him turning heel, then all the better. If people shit on him for winning the Rumble and he goes heel right afterwards, Batista, they forced their hand. He was not supposed to be a heel. But if Jericho wins, goes over the top yeah, come on, baby, in 2012. He didn't win that year, but if he did that and went heel right afterwards, it would have been amazing. So, no doubt in my mind that it would be a great idea. I'm not saying they should do it. I don't think he's my top pick to win it, but it would be cool. Would the fans shit on it? Some of the internet fans probably would, but the crowd would not. The crowd wouldn't turn on it in Orlando. I know that for a fact. They would probably rather have, Jericho win than Triple H, or maybe Triple H just because we don't see him too often, and the shock factor of him winning would be something, but it would, to them, probably be better than Reigns winning, which to me, even though it's the worst case scenario, I would still be more okay with that than probably Triple H winning. But anyway, they would not shit on it in Orlando. We would not get a third Rumble in a row where the crowd would just blow up. It's not ideal for Jericho to win, and I would not hate it as long as it led to something special at WrestleMania between him and whoever. He would be the champion technically, but whoever he would face at WrestleMania. I don't think it would main event, though. That's the only thing. I feel like even if we got Jericho and Ambrose for the belt, that would not be the main event. It would probably be Rock and Brock, or Brock Lesnar and Reigns in a non-title match, whatever. But yeah, the crowd would not shit on it, but it would not be ideal. His second question, would you like to see the New Day beat London and Kendrick's run as the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history? So yes, London and Kendrick are the longest reigning WWE tag team champions of all time, not the World Tag Team Champions, which it's very confusing, but the WWE Tag Team Championships of today carry the lineage over from the WWE Tag Team titles, which technically started in 2002 when they became a SmackDown exclusive set of titles, when they became, exclusive to SmackDown. So, and the longest reigning champions are London and Kendrick with just under a year, I think. I think it was either 11 months or just about a year or a couple days short. I forgot what it was, but just about a year. And, I've been really looking for a team to break that reign or break that run. Break that reign, break that record for years now. I thought the Usos might do it back in 2014. They did not. I thought, maybe Cesaro and Kid might do it. They did not. And the New Day, for the first time in a long time, we do not have transitional tag team champions. Before the New Day won back the belts at SummerSlam 5 months ago at this point, the titles were literally changing hands every 2 months for about a year or so. Before it was the New Day, it was the Primetime Players for 2 months. Before that, it was New Day for 2 months. Cesaro and Kid for 2 months. Usos for 2 months. Sando and Miz for 2 months. Gold and Stardust for 2 months. Usos had a 6-month reign. But before that, or after that, everyone had like a 2-month reign with the titles. It was like almost predictable that the titles would change hands when they did every 2 months, like the even numbered months in 2015, which was weird. But yeah, if there's any team right now that deserves to beat London and Kendrick's run as tag team champions, I don't think they will. But do they deserve to? Absolutely. No team is more deserving to break that record than the New Day. And I feel like they can. They got to hold the belts until October, which is a long ways away. Not October, I'm sorry, until SummerSlam, which is a long ways away even still. Because we got to go through Rumble, Mania, all the other B-level pay-per-views. So it's not likely, but I would love to see it personally. I think they would be a great team to break the record of London and Kendrick as the longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions in history. Are injuries in WWE at the moment worse than they have ever been? I think so. I cannot remember a time when you asked me that question, when you sent it in, I'm reading that question, I'm thinking, has there really ever been a time when we have had this many people, this many top stars out with injuries? And I couldn't think of it. We've had a lot of miscellaneous stars out from time to time over the last 7 or 8 years since I've been a fan. But even before that, I can't think of a time where WWE had a drought of superstars, like real superstars, like top-level guys, like we do right now with John Cena, Sting, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton. I've never seen this many top stars out, which should really serve as a lesson to WWE to not overwork their guys. It's obviously a factor. I know a lot of it is shoulder injuries, which is weird and a huge coincidence, but a lot of it has to do that they overwork their roster. They have them working 4 or 5 times a week, which is not good. A lot of people have brought it up before. You should cycle out your wrestlers. I know even Solomonster brought it up on his most recent podcast, and I could not agree more. Have people cycle in and out. Maybe don't make it as predictable, like, oh, this person's leaving, so let's write him off TV. Let's have them lose a loser leaves town match or something. You don't have to make it that predictable, but it would at least benefit the health of the superstars, not having them work 365 days a year, which I know is exaggerating. They work about 300 days a year, which is still fucking a lot, But anyway, I think injuries now are more, they are worse than they've ever been. Honestly, I can't think of another time where we had this many people out with injuries. And it's not funny, but it's odd. It's very, very strange, because not only is every champion from WrestleMania 31 out right now, John Cena, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, both of the tag team champions, Cesaro and Tyson Kidd, and Nikki Bella. But I noted on Twitter right before WrestleMania last year, we have never had a roster where everyone was active. Going into WrestleMania last year, everybody was active. Everybody. Even Rock and Taker, who never appear on TV, everybody was active. The only person that was out with an injury was Christian, who had already rumored to have been retired by that point, so technically he didn't count. If you're not counting Christian, everybody was active on the roster. And now everybody's out. Like, half the roster's out right now. How incredible is that? Like, again, unbelievable. Not incredible as looking amazing. But very weird. And absolutely, I don't think there's ever been a point in WWE history where we have had this many people out due to injuries. Specifically shoulder injuries, which is just a coincidence and a bizarre one at that. Brad's next question here. Push one, have one turn face or heel, and release one. The Ascension, Damian Sandow, and R-Truth. This was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Push obviously would have to be Sandow. I'm a huge Sandow fan. They are largely wasting him. Not even largely. They are wasting him right now because he's not even on TV. So I would push Sandow. And the next two are interchangeable. You could really have it go both ways. But in my opinion, I would turn heel R-Truth and then release the Ascension. I know the Ascension has more potential at this point, but I feel like even if you turn them babyface on the main roster, no one's going to give a fuck. Like, if you bring them down to NXT, maybe, that wasn't one of your options. But if you bring them down to NXT, maybe turn them babyface there, or at least they're over with the audience at this point. They weren't a year or two ago, but they are now for whatever reason. Maybe just because they seem more motivated than they ever have been before down in NXT, but in the main roster, they just feel like they're going through the motions. Not a coincidence. WWE hasn't had anything to do with them. Has had nothing, for them to do since they arrived in the main roster. But if you turn them babyface on Raw or SmackDown, people still wouldn't care. People would not cheer them or give a shit. Unless they undergo a massive gimmick change, no one's going to care. At least if R-Truth went heel, he has a better chance of getting over like he did 5 years ago as Crazy Heel Truth, which was fucking awesome. I have never really liked R-Truth. I didn't like him before he went heel. I haven't liked him since he went back babyface. but when he was heel in 2011 for those 6 or 7 months, that long stretch of time during that year was amazing. I never really bought him as like a top level guy, as like he should be WWE champion. But other than that, I thought the guy really, he turned it up. He reinvented himself and had a great little run for himself as a heel that year. And I just haven't given a shit about him since. So I would turn him heel. At least my interest in him would be up. If they turn the Ascension, no one would give a shit. At least more people would care about a heel R-Truth than a babyface Ascension. So in that case, I would get rid of the Ascension and use those 2 spots for like a better tag team like the Young Bucks. I don't think they're ever really coming over. I think they're happy where they are. But a better tag team than the Ascension, because they're not even great as it is. But the way that WWE has treated them, no one gives a shit in the main roster, which is unfortunate. They can be a talented tag team, but even if they turn them, then no one's going to care unless they undergo a massive gimmick, overhaul. At Reborn Again, Balor versus Taker or Bryan versus Nakamura, which is more likely for WrestleMania 32? Great question. Probably Balor Taker. Like I said earlier, I think there's a good chance they could call a Balor for a Taker match. It's a long shot, but Nakamura Bryan, with Balor Taker, the only thing they have to do is call it Balor. With Bryan Nakamura, there's 2 things they have to do with her, which are 2 long shots. Balor Taker is 1 long shot that they call it Balor before WrestleMania. Bryan Nakamura is 2 long shots. 1, Nakamura would have to be in a top match at WrestleMania, which I don't think he will be. He might not even be here before WrestleMania. They could have him show up the night after WrestleMania. They should capitalize as soon as possible, but I think he's still with New Japan until like the end of January, so I don't know how long it's going to be until he's in WWE. And then on the other hand here, we would have to clear Daniel Bryan. We have to medically clear Daniel Bryan, which again, I'm getting the feeling it will not happen before WrestleMania. I would love to see it happen. I want to see it happen. I'm getting the feeling that it will not, because otherwise they would have cleared him by now. Who knows? Maybe they're getting desperate and they'll clear him. Who knows? But that being said, that's 2 long shots. And Nakamura, they would push him in a match at WrestleMania against Bryan, which would be fucking amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see it happening. So I'd go with Balor Taker as more likely for WrestleMania 32 than Bryan Nakamura. But both matches would be fucking kick-ass, like I said before. His second question, Reigns versus Triple H, title versus career at WrestleMania 32. Would that work? Definitely. I don't think it's practical just because I think Triple H, he's not in bad shape, and it's not like I want to see him continue his career. But remember when he kinda, sorta, but didn't really retire back in 2012 after that match with Lesnar at SummerSlam? He walked away like, oh, my career is over, and he said it the next night on Raw that he was done wrestling. And then he was back to wrestling, at WrestleMania 29 or whatever it was. And that stipulation was also if he lost, he would have to retire. And he didn't, obviously. But, that was 3 years ago. So maybe he's more in a position to retire now than he was before. But I feel like, as much as I love Triple H as a business guy, I still feel like his ego gets the best of him sometimes. And he always has to be a part of WrestleMania. Although he's not a huge draw. People know who Triple H is. He's super popular. People like his matches. I've loved his matches in recent years for the most part. But it's not like if Triple H wasn't a part of WrestleMania, like a Taker or a Cena or a Rock or whoever, if he's not a part of Mania, people, it's not that they wouldn't care, but it's not as big of a deal as it would be if a Cena, Taker, or Rock missed WrestleMania. In my opinion, anyway. Maybe it's different for other people, but for me, I would not be all up in arms if Triple H was not a part of WrestleMania. At this point, with so many people out, he has to be a part of the show regardless. But just to me, I feel like this is not his year to retire, or at least he won't retire this year. But if he does indeed to retire at WrestleMania, if he does choose to retire at Mania, there's no better person to retire to than Reigns, because he handpicked that person years ago to be the next top guy, along with Vince, obviously. But they have good history, they have good chemistry. So yeah, I think that'd be a great hook for WrestleMania if it was just title versus career. It'd be better than just having the title on the career, just having the title on the line. It would at least add some interest. Where if Reigns wins and is going in as champion, then at least there's something up for grabs if Triple H lost. And if he didn't come back, it's not like he came back, if he comes back 6 months later and he's not retired anymore and it comes out of retirement, which would be a massive, colossal waste. But as long as that doesn't happen, it would be a good hook for Mania. But like I said earlier, like I've said 20 times before, I feel like that match doesn't need a title attached to it to get over at WrestleMania, or at least to be a selling point or to be a draw. That match can be a straight-up singles match or no holds barred or whatever, because they have so much history They don't need a title to make it interesting because they have the match itself, and I'm already intrigued. They don't need the title. The Lesnar match could use a championship. Reigns and Triple H doesn't. But if it did have the championship, it would be a lot better if Triple H's career, as you said, is on the line. Because at least there's something for Triple H to put up for grabs if Reigns is walking in as champion. But then at the same time, though, wouldn't it be kind of dumb? I mean, we said it on the Cruise Control podcast last week. Cheap plug, check it out at Randy Cruz on the Twitter. He tweeted out the link a bunch of times. You can check it out if you want. Great podcast. But he said that if Reigns walks out as champion, okay, then where do I believe that Triple H has any chance of winning the championship at WrestleMania? You know, if Reigns could overcome 29 men and then win the belt or retain the belt, whatever, then where is if he can beat 29 men, I'm thinking main event. If he could beat 29 men in the Royal Rumble match to retain his title, then why would I believe that this other person has the chance to beat him when it's just one-on-one at WrestleMania? You know, and even if Triple H does beat Reigns at the Rumble or eliminates him or whatever and wins the belt, then it wouldn't be title versus career in that case, you know? And then it would be predictable that Reigns is winning. So I hope they don't go that route. I hope they take the title off of Reigns, but don't give it to Triple H. So I like the idea if the title has to be on the line for that match. I just don't think the title needs to be on the line for that match. I think it's a match that can get over on its own without the championship. And there's other matches that could benefit from having the title on the line, in my opinion. His next question: how would you rate Mauro Ranallo's announcing on his first night on SmackDown? I thought it was great. Maybe 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I thought the guy was really, really good. He calls the moves in the ring. He knows what he's talking about. He's knowledgeable about the product. He's invested. He gets me engaged in the action. He made me care a lot more about the matches on SmackDown this week than I have ever before because he feels like he's genuinely interested in what he's talking about. And he had good chemistry with Byron Saxton, the ubiquitous Byron Saxton, as he called him, and Jerry Lawler, who worked a more heelish style, which was really, really cool. So he had good chemistry with those guys. And if there's any one guy who could be like the next voice of WWE, in my opinion, it would be Mauro Ranallo. I think he's great. Initially I said Tom Phillips, but I think Mauro Ranallo, in my opinion, is better than Tom Phillips by a large margin. And he can be the guy who replaces Cole. So I would love to see Mauro Ranallo in that top spot at some point on Raw, but for now he's doing great on SmackDown. I know it's only one night, but he did really good for his debut appearance on SmackDown last week. Loved his commentary. Easily my favorite commentator in WWE today. Goes without saying, obviously. At Jeremy8911, do you think we will possibly get Kevin Owens versus Taker or Taker versus a heel Ambrose at WrestleMania? Ambrose is another guy I put in my article for potential opponents for Taker at WrestleMania that I forgot to mention earlier. That would be a great match, but like I said, I feel like Jericho-Ambrose is almost a lock, so we can keep it with that. So, Owens and Taker, I would love to see that. Owens is another guy who I can kind of see facing Taker. I don't know if he's at that level yet, but with so many people out, they're going to have to kind of stretch their roster thin. So, Owens-Taker would be great. Of the two, I would go with Owens-Taker just because Ambrose and Jericho seems more appealing to me. And I don't know what they would do with Jericho if Ambrose faced Taker. But Owens-Taker would be great. Taker versus the heel Ambrose would be awesome too. And you can also get a sneak preview of the chemistry that they have. They wrestled a random one-off match on SmackDown in England back in 2013, if you want to check it out. I think it was Taker's final TV match on Raw or SmackDown. He wrestled that match against Ambrose on SmackDown for whatever reason, because he faced the Shield that week on Raw. And it was a good match too, so you can check out the chemistry they have on YouTube or whatever. His second question: thoughts on Kalisto versus Chris Jericho for the U.S. title at WrestleMania? Like I said earlier in your previous question, I think Jericho and Ambrose is, the story's there. Kalisto and Jericho would be a great match wrestling-wise. I don't know how you get to it or what the story would be. Heel Jericho versus a babyface Kalisto would be great, and then Jericho could put over Kalisto. I wouldn't be opposed to it at all. I just feel like a heel Jericho and a babyface Ambrose for the IC title makes the most sense. They have history. Jericho has history with the IC title, so I think it's a story that writes itself. But Kalisto and Jericho, I would not be opposed to. I feel like just Jericho and Ambrose would be a match that makes sense to do at WrestleMania. At RJ_Marceau, my brother, his question was, who is the worst and best Royal Rumble winner, scenario-wise, for this year's Rumble? What is the Balor Club potential if New Japan Pro Wrestling guys are in it? Feud of the Authority, or should they align with them? So the worst possible scenario to me is not Reigns. I would be fine with Reigns. I'd even be fine with Triple H because it's something we haven't seen in a while. But worst case scenario to me would be Triple H. Not to see Triple H as champion would be like the worst case scenario, but that being the worst case scenario to me would be because Triple H does not need a championship. It would be the first time in a while. So that would be the only one positive that we have not seen in a long time. But he probably would not work. Yeah, and again, neither would Lesnar. But the thing with Triple H is that if he won the championship, not because, again, it would not be worst case scenario because it's something. Okay, how do I rephrase this? Let's start over. It would not be like terrible because it's something we have not seen in a while. But the only reason why I think it would be bad because it predictably sets up Triple H and Reigns for Mania, which is fine because I want to see that match of Mania anyway. But then in that case, Reigns is winning the belt. It's almost an exact repeat of Cena Rock from WrestleMania 29, which was, I loved the feud. I thought the build-up was great, but the match sucked, and because it was so fucking predictable. And the match itself wasn't good anyway, in my opinion. But yeah, that's why I wouldn't want to see Triple H win, because it becomes so obvious that he's going to lose the belt to Reigns at Mania, and people are going to shit all over that. So. And he's finally getting over, so I wouldn't do that at WrestleMania. I wouldn't have Triple H going in as champion and then Reigns beat him for the belt. I feel like that's way too predictable. And they'll probably do it anyway, which is why WWE will do it, because, they shouldn't do it, which is why they probably will, which is why Reigns and Batista won the last couple of years. He's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, I would say Styles, but at the same time, I feel like there's a chance, even if he's in it, that he wouldn't win it just because not everybody knows who he is. More people know who he is than Nakamura or Gallows or Anderson or whatever. But at the same time, not the entire WWE audience knows who he is. So it would be a great hook for Raw. Like, who the hell is our new WWE champion? Who the hell is AJ Styles if you didn't already know him? It would be an amazing impact on day one. But I don't think they'll do it just because Styles, by that point, by winning the belt his first night in, which albeit it would be historic, it would be... Not everyone knows who he is, so he hasn't been established with the WWE audience yet. So that's why, not that I wouldn't go with Styles, but that's a reason why I could see them not going with Styles. So putting that aside, that would be like my dream scenario. But putting that aside, I would probably go with Lesnar just because it sets up a bunch of matches for Mania that make the most sense. Lesnar should be involved in the title match at WrestleMania with Owens. That was my original plan. I don't think that's happening. But Lesnar and Owens, Lesnar and Reigns would be fine again. There's a couple different people they can do. Sheamus maybe. It's not ideal, but it's something. So yeah, best case scenario I think is Lesnar. Worst case scenario is Triple H. And the second part of RJ's question, Balor Club potential, if the New Japan guys are in it. Anderson, or maybe it was Gallows. I know half of the guys won't be in it because they're still New Japan. So there's no chance they're in the Rumble. Styles is almost a lock. They're not going to bring in Gallows to the Rumble, not like Anderson. Maybe they will, but I don't think they would. Styles has is the likeliest candidate to be in the Rumble. I know they have to pass their drug tests and whatever, their medical exams, whatever. But they could always rush up that process if they want to get him in the Rumble, which would be an awesome, awesome surprise for the Rumble. The WWE debut of the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. I would jump through at least 5 windows if I saw the phenomenal one in the Royal Rumble. I'm going to mark out regardless of when he debuts, whether it's on Raw, Rumble, on Superstars. I'm kidding. But wherever he shows up, I'll be marking the hell out regardless. It would be awesome if it was Styles, though. But yeah, would they feud with the Authority or align? I know RJ's brought up before in his article and also on Twitter, which I thought was a good idea, that Styles could be like the new Authority-appointed guy. The only issue I could see with that is because people would go so crazy for Styles coming back, or not coming back, but debuting in WWE. He'd be a babyface off the bat. And not to say that he would be like the next John Cena, but with Cena being out, this is the biggest opportunity that WWE and he has to get over as a top face in the company right now. So many top baby faces, so many top stars out right now. This is the biggest opportunity they have to get him over as a big top baby face. Reigns will always be their number one guy, especially as champion, but there's no reason why AJ cannot have a nice little run on top as a top babyface if they chose to push him as such. So I feel like there's a bigger chance they would feud with the Authority as opposed to align with them. But even if he aligned with Triple H, I'd still mark it regardless just because it's AJ fucking Styles, So, yeah, Balor Club potential. Balor Club potential, not Bullet Club. There's a chance that Styles could be in it. I don't know about the other guys just because they're not done with New Japan yet. But if any one of those four will show up in the Rumble, the most likely is AJ Styles. And his second question, if WWE debuts the Balor Club or Bullet Club or whatever, should they be booked as babyfaces? WWE has no babyface factions. You know, I was thinking about that last night. RJ makes a good point. They should be booked as babyfaces. I know a Balor Club heel faction would be cool. That'd be awesome if it was for NXT. A heel Balor Club faction on the main roster, I don't think would work. It's going to work whenever, but I don't think it would fit in right now just because we already have the Authority, League of Nations, Wyatt Family, Social Outcasts, The New Day. We have a lot of heel stables right now. Bringing in another heel stable would be overload. It already is overload, so bringing them in now would not work. So they would be a great babyface faction, like you said. We have no babyface factions. They could be like TNA's Fortune from many years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, when we had Main Event Mafia, or no, it was Immortal. No, was it Immortal? Yeah, it was Immortal, and they turned Fortune babyface, and they had them feud with Immortal. We could have the Balor Club as our Fortune, and then the Authority, or League of Nations, or Wyatt Family even, which would be amazing, as our Immortal. So, let's move forward here. Did I say Balor Club is Fortune? I think I did. I don't know whether I fucked that up or not. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, moving on here. At E13A, has the Rumble been predictable more often than not? That's not even a criticism. I'm just wondering how big the ratio of surprising Royal Rumbles were. Even the Attitude Era didn't have much unpredictability in the Rumbles. So I did a Facebook post about a week or two ago saying, has the Royal Rumble been predictable since like 2000? Because I went into old, official fan threads with predictions for the Rumble and whatever, with people predicting, oh, this person is going to win the Rumble. And more often than not, they got it right. I'll do a quick recap. I won't go in depth with everyone. But Austin for 01 was kind of obvious. Him and Taker were like the most predicted people, but Austin won. 02, Triple H was... 02 people pretty much thought Triple H was going to win, and he did. 03, Lesnar was foreshadowed. Benoit was foreshadowed. 05, Batista was foreshadowed. 06, Mysterio was not the top pick to win, but people had a feeling he might win. 07, people knew that either HBK or Taker was going to win. Taker won. 08, Cena was the only unpredictable one in like the last 15 years, I feel like. The truly only unpredictable winner that people had no idea was going to win. 09, Orton was obvious. 2010, Edge was not obvious, but people had a feeling that he might return. I remember thinking like that summer of 09 that, Edge is injured, he's going to be back in the Rumble. I didn't know he was going to be back in the Rumble, but I knew there was a chance that he could come back in the Rumble and not win it, but he could be back in time for the Rumble and maybe win it. So he was not obvious, but there was a chance that he could have won it, months in advance, from what I thought anyway. 2011, people thought there was a chance Del Rio could win it. Not obvious, but I thought there was a chance. Same thing with Sheamus in 2012. 2013, Cena was obvious. Batista was obvious, and Reigns was obvious. So we've got a lot more predictable Rumble winners than unpredictable. So, and it kind of goes to your second question too. I mean, that's kind of the answer to your first one, that we have had a lot more predictable Rumble winners than unpredictable. And I'm hoping this year they swerve us somehow. Even if Styles won, that's not predictable, but I predicted it earlier, so it's not something that we didn't see coming. There's always a chance, But to answer your second question here, do you think WWE will ever throw a curveball and have a jobber win the Royal Rumble just to prove that anyone can indeed win? The closest we came to that was in '99, which is the worst Rumble of all time, which is why I don't think they should do it again, when they had Mr. McMahon win, and from like the number 2 spot. So he lasted longer than like 95% of the participants in Rumble history. But anyway, he was like, that kind of filled that tagline of like anyone can win, even the boss. Besides that, we've had a lot of main eventers win for the most part, like Benoit and Mysterio being the only exceptions. But other than that, a lot of main event stars have already won the Rumble before. So, it's not really, it's not really all that unpredictable. So if they had like a Curtis Axel win or Heath Slater, to answer your question, if they threw us a curveball and have one of those guys win the Rumble, I feel like it would do more to devalue the Rumble. I mean, a lot of people can argue that it wouldn't, and I get that. But to me, the Rumble should be, don't swerve us just for the sake of swerving us. Then it becomes obvious that they're just having Slater win just to swerve us, and they would take his title shot away like the next night. Don't do that, like they did with McMahon. Like, he won it just for the sake of swerving us, and they took his title shot away the next month for Austin anyway, who should have won the Rumble. So it didn't even make that much sense. So I would not do that again. Unless they had a plan, like if they had Sandow win the Rumble, like holy shit, not saying it's a good idea because no one cares about it right now because he's not even on TV. They had Sandow return, win the Rumble, and then they made a main event star out of him. Miraculously. I don't know how they would do that, but there's always the possibility. Then it would be cool. But if you're gonna have someone win the Rumble just for the sake of saying, "Oh, we swerved you," we're gonna have Axel win the Rumble just for the sake of swerving us and take his title shot away like the next night, or have him lose the next night, then it's kind of a waste. Unless they make the most of the opportunity and they really push that person, it's kind of a waste. But I like your idea though. His third question, how likely is AJ Styles at WrestleMania, and would that alone intrigue enough fans to break the 100,000 attendance record? That alone I don't think will, because like I said, not everybody knows AJ Styles. It's definitely, the intrigue alone is going to get me pumped for WrestleMania, but for like the casual audience, just because AJ Styles would be there, it's likely. There is a chance. I'm not saying it's not likely, because I don't know if they're going to hold off until the night after WrestleMania. That seems like it's a while away, like 3 months away. So I don't know if they're going to wait that long, especially after all the hype they've been giving it the last couple of weeks, the last week alone. I feel like they would not waste that by waiting a couple months. It'd still be awesome. I'm still going to mark it anyway, but I feel like they're going to capitalize on it sooner rather than later by having one of them show up, especially Styles show up in the next couple weeks or so, in the next month at the very latest. So that said, Styles alone being at WrestleMania would not intrigue enough fans to break the record. It would intrigue a lot of fans, not everybody, just because, like I said, not everybody knows who he is. He's not yet established with the entire WWE audience. It would establish people like me and you and people that know who he is and have followed his career and have been looking forward to seeing him in WWE forever. Not everybody, though. But if you combine that, it's like a small factor. It's a small piece of the puzzle. You put that in there with Rock Wrestling and, at least showing up in a couple other big-time matches. I feel like that is enough to break the 100,000 attendance record for WrestleMania. At CRhodes_T Wilson, did you see that the Cody Rhodes tweet about the Rumble WWE telling him that that there's no interest in him coming back at the Rumble? Do you think it's a work or what? I don't think it's a work. Otherwise, he would not have put it on that Twitter, which is locked and it's private or whatever. I don't think it's a work, but I thought it was bullshit. At Zach Donegan, whose questions I'll answer in a second, but shout out to him. He brought up the tweet to my attention last night. I saw people tweeting about it, but I don't follow the private account of Cody Rhodes. He has one for Stardust and then one for Cody Rhodes. I don't follow the one for Cody Rhodes, so I couldn't see the tweet. But he took a snapshot of it and he sent it to me, and it said, I don't mean to mislead here, but I was told that there's a chance of me returning the Rumble, but that there was no interest. Which, again, I think is total bullshit. Not that there was no interest, not that there was, the rumor or whatever, but I feel like the fact that there's no interest, that WWE claims there's no interest, I think is bullshit. Because there are enough fans clamoring for Cody Rhodes to come back. I'm not saying, the 10% of all the internet fans that want to see Cody Rhodes come back. Like, that's not the case. There's a lot of people that want to see Cody Rhodes return over Stardust. I enjoy Stardust, but Cody Rhodes should be back by now, in my personal opinion. I just like Cody Rhodes a lot more than I like Stardust. Always have, always will. So, and it wouldn't surprise me if WWE felt that way, that there was no interest in a Rumble return for Cody Rhodes, because WWE has never been high on Cody Rhodes, ever. I know they've given him a few pushes here and there, but they have never given him the push that he deserves towards the top of towards the top of the card. Even though he deserves it, he's capable of being a top tier talent, in my opinion. So I just think it's dumb, because I think a lot of people would mark out for like a Cody Rhodes return. And like people have pitched before, I pitched it last year. You have Stardust come out in the Rumble, he gets eliminated, and then he comes back out as Cody Rhodes. How awesome would that be? That'd be so fucking cool. But it doesn't look like they'll do that just because there's no interest there. Which, from WWE's standpoint, I think from WWE's perspective, they feel like there's no interest, which I think is, like I said, total bullshit, because there definitely is. Final two questions come from at Zach Donegan. His first question was, Raw is 23 years old today, which I completely forgot about, so thank you for reminding me, Zach. Great anniversary. Favorite memories and matches of all time in Raw history. Wow. Favorite matches? A lot of these are more recent, but, Flair and Perfect from January 93, or what, I think it was right after the debut of Raw, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. In like the first couple episodes of Raw, we had it. Right after the Rumble, it was Flair and Perfect, loser leaves town match with Perfect winning. That match would go up there as one of the best of all time. I know WWE.com did a list of best Raw matches of all time a couple years ago. I did one too, I think, or best moment. I think I did matches, like best matches on the 3-hour Raw since they went 3 hours or whatever. But for me, favorite matches, Cena Cesaro, just as recently as last year, I thought was great in Chicago. Cena and HBK from '07 was an amazing match. Arguably one of, if not the greatest Raw match in history. Cena Punk is probably my personal favorite, and I'm sure there's a lot more, but those are the ones that come to mind. All of them involve Cena, interestingly enough. But the one between Cena and Punk, their final encounter actually, from February of 2013, right before WrestleMania, right after the Chamber pay-per-view, with the winner advancing to WrestleMania to face The Rock for the WWE Championship. That match was amazing. I'm sure you can find it on the network somewhere. It's in the Raw replay section, but there's also another section where they have just the match. If you search it, I'm sure you can find it. But those are my favorite matches. Only 3 that come to mind anyway. Favorite memories? I mean, there's so many, man. There's so many favorite memories of mine. I mean, favorite, obviously, you said all time, but when you say favorite and not best, it really only kind of limits it to when I was a fan, or have been a fan since '08. So, favorite memories, Jericho going heel in '08, which was really cool, right after I started watching wrestling. William Regal winning King of the Ring, which was essentially what got me watching wrestling, or got me invested in WWE as a full-time watcher in April of '08. Lesnar returning, Warrior coming back, and then right after WrestleMania, right before he passed away, Bret Hart coming back, The Rock coming back, a lot of returns. Punk coming back in the summer of 2011, the Pipe Bomb has to be leading that list. So a lot of cool memories from the last 8 years that I've been a wrestling fan. There's just so many that come to mind. But happy birthday to Raw. Happy 23-year-old today, which I completely forgot about. Like I said, it's an amazing anniversary, and I completely forgot about it. So thanks to Zach for pointing that out and bringing it to my attention. And the final question here, also from Zach, favorite and least favorite commentators of all time. Favorite has to be Jim Ross, and then least favorite has to be, there's a couple, like Byron Saxton that I don't care for. Mike Adamle was terrible. I never cared for Vince McMahon as a commentator, especially in the late 80s, early 90s. I just thought he was way too bland, like even more bland than Michael Cole. I've never been a Michael Cole fan, but I like him even more than Vince as a commentator back in the day. I never cared for him. As terms of my favorite commentators, there's not a long list, but JR leads it, obviously. I would say Gordon Solie, he's one of the best. He's not one of my favorites just because I've never really listened to too much of his commentary, but Jim Ross, who else? CM Punk, I know he's kind of a wild card, but his commentary was hilarious from about 5 or 6 years ago when he was on Raw every single week. When he was injured, in the final few months of 2010, he was injured, and they put him on commentary. He was hilarious. So Punk on commentary, Jim Ross, and there was somebody else too. Mauro Ranallo now, I guess, would be my favorite currently in WWE. Tom Phillips, I've always liked. I feel like... Jesse Ventura, too. Jesse Ventura was always great when I used to listen to his commentary. When I do listen to his commentary, like the old pay-per-views in the late 80s, early 90s, his commentary was always great. And I didn't really mind... who am I thinking of? God damn it. Gorilla Monsoon wasn't bad either. A lot of people didn't like his commentary. I thought it was fine. I liked his commentary, but my favorites would have to be Jim Ross, CM Punk. Even though he did not last long on commentary, he was an amazing commentary. I loved it. It's so funny. Right around the time I started becoming a fan of his, too. A couple months afterwards. So Jim Ross, CM Punk, and Jesse Ventura. So that is it for this week's edition of #AskYesM. Thank you guys, as always, for sending in your amazing questions. Continue to do so by tweeting me on the Twitter, at WrestleRant on the Twitter, with the hashtag #AskGSM. Be sure to find me on Facebook, give the page an all thumbs up at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights, or on the wall itself. And last but not least, be sure to leave a comment down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's video. So that being said, guys, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Enjoy Raw tonight. Happy birthday to Raw once again. 23 years. It's amazing. I might go back and watch the very first episode in Raw history. Maybe I'll have a review up on nextairwrestling.net. Who knows? Stay tuned. And that's about it, guys. So be sure to have a great week in wrestling, or a great week in general. You guys are awesome. Continue your great support. Hopefully you're having as great of a 2016 as I am so far. And enjoy Raw tonight. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.